Welcome back to our show, your show, Let's Talk Stocks. And joining us in studio this morning, a very interesting guest, Shanoy Coombs from Infinity Marketing and Communications, IMC. Of course, sounds all nice. Shanoy will tell us all about it as a development communication specialist.
Yes.
Shanoy, welcome to the show.
All right, thank you so much for having me, Neilson.
All right. Infinity IMC. Sounds all nice and fancy. Who is Infinity?
All right, so Infinity IMC, is IMC short for Integrated Marketing Communications, and that's literally what we do. I say to people all the time, if I were to summarize our work, I would say we are an organization that specializes in marketing, communications, and events across the Caribbean and for diaspora markets. Okay. And we have three main pillars, I would say. One that focuses on the hardcore marketing communications, and then we have what we call development communications, which focuses a lot on using communications for good or positive change. And we can talk a little bit more about that.
Certainly will.
And then the third component would be our events management and training sessions or different add-on services. I must say that once we put ourselves out there across the Caribbean and diaspora markets, we have had people call us about any number of services that we may not directly offer, but of course we have been able to connect them with other partners who do.
All right, Shanoy, talk to me about that development marketing side of it. I mean, we hear the regular hardcore, we know what the marketing side is, businesses do it, government, everybody's now marketing for various reasons.
Yes.
Development.
So the development communications part is just a little bit more long term. So you're using the key communication tools, you're using the media engagement, you're using your different social media platforms, you're using direct face-to-face sort of communications. The difference is that it's usually for a positive cause, a social impact initiative, or I'd like to say for good. So if you have thought about it, if you've seen a campaign about encouraging hand washing in school-age children, that's one. If you have seen things about sexual protection, that's usually also a development communication sort of initiative. If you have seen things encouraging farmers to use tools to kind of help them to predict the weather conditions a little bit better and to help them to prepare, that's also a form of development communications. And so a lot of international organizations or development partners in particular, they're the ones who utilize this because they see behavior change as not something that maybe a one-off marketing campaign can fix, and so it requires a little bit more hand-holding. It is a little bit more engagement on the part of the persons you're trying to reach. So instead of just disseminating a message to the public, you usually try to get a segment of the public involved in creating the message so that it resonates with them. So if I were to summarize it, as I say, development communications, usually for good, usually for positive impact, usually a little bit more long-term, and certainly a big part of it, behavior change and engaging persons as a part of the process.
Right. Talk to me about Jamaican scenario, or even the Caribbean as a whole, where there is a lot of baggages that we seem to have carried. I for one, will say, for instance, while Jamaicans are very entrepreneurial in spirit, by and large, we are hustlers, rather than business-minded. How could development communications or marketing help to change that?
I like that because, it's something I also think is about streamlining processes. I think at the core, as you rightly say, Jamaicans are entrepreneurial. It comes naturally for us to find different ways to seek out money. What doesn't come naturally to us sometimes, unfortunately, is that we may want to kind of shift around a rule a bit, or there are certain guidelines we want to go around.
Find the easy way around it.
The easy way around it. And so I think how development communications could help that is to really create a campaign that focuses on a culture of positivity, on a culture of adhering to the rules, a culture of streamlining things. And you know what's interesting too? Years ago, I was invited to bid on a project, and it was talking about just that, to say the average person believed the process was so much harder if they went through the usual channel, something as simple as your driver's license. And so they were willing to go and do the backdoor deal for it. But if you really were to document the process and say it's simple as your 2 passport size photographs, getting it stamped and signed, going to the tax office, evidence that you have passed the test, etc. So just things like those are certainly areas that I think by making it in very easy, simplistic forms to say it's not as hard as you think can certainly streamline the approaches we take to business and so many other areas of society.
Yes, absolutely. One like paying taxes.
Yes.
People don't see the benefit of being formal as a company, for example, because, hey, they're going to have to go pay some taxes.
Yes. But I will say, as a fellow business owner, that just about everything done, I think the government and TAJ has spent a great deal of time doing that and trying to sensitize persons to say, if you really want to take your business further, you need to comply, because the minute you're trying to scale and grow, you need to go to the bank for any sort of transactions. You need to be showing a record that you are, in fact. The TCC is almost second nature for everything you're doing now. And certainly for a company of my nature, I do have international persons who are trying to do business with me. They're going to check if I'm registered. They're going to go on the company registration thing to check up on me to see if I am who I say I am. They're also going to be asking for a tax compliance certificate, and in their contracts they are going to have bylines to say you are responsible for the taxes related to this. So I can't stress it enough that it's just something you think through, the same way you go and open a bank account, the same way you register your business name, the same way you think how are you going to sell your products and services. You should also be thinking, how am I going to ensure that I'm doing things legitimately so that I can legitimately attract additional business.
And good high-paying business.
Good high-paying business, because they are doing the research and they're checking to see, that you are someone of good standing as well, and you want to be able to take advantage of that.
Shanoy, as we talk about good high-paying business, you've been able to get into a space, big space, not just the regular marketer. Yes, digital marketing is a big thing and everybody seems to be running that route, but you are able to attract clients regionally out of the diaspora and big international corporations. How have you managed to navigate that?
Well, I think a key thing, like you've probably heard about the shoemaker who doesn't have a shoe. And so I didn't want to be the marketer who doesn't have a market. So that was a big part for me. I think my background, like I did a 5-year stint in the UN system, and I did Jamaica, Bahamas, and Belize. And then after that, I worked at the International Seabed Authority, which is a HQ. It was with people from all over the world. And so I think those 2 jobs, I would say, were very instrumental in terms of spotting some gaps in terms of persons outside of Jamaica who probably are doing business in Jamaica, and they need someone who can help them to navigate the local scenario and also understand the cultural differences. And so I think those came together to kind of help me to tap into that. I'll tell you an interesting story too, because when I worked in Seabed Authority, it was persons from all over the world. And I can say now, publicly, that I didn't think I always got along well with my co-workers. And then I realized that it was some culture clashes that were probably happening there, or concepts of work ethics and what flexibility meant, and time frames and all of that. It was very different. So what did I do? I went back to school. In 2019, I got a Shevening scholarship, went off, and I studied culture and development. And I was all the better for it, because now I was able to position myself to say I am a Jamaican, but I have international experience working in the UN, working with Seabed Authority, and I'm now trained in terms of culture and business and how to navigate some of those landscapes. And that has been very critical in terms of the type of clientele I would have been able to attract for my business.
Talk to us about some of those clients.
Okay. So as I said, we have very different categories. So on the development communication side, we do work with companies like the European Union. We have done projects with the UNDP, for example. We have done projects funded by Global Affairs Canada. I think if I were to go through the full list, almost all of the top development organizations, I have done some level of work with UNICEF, UNFPA. I could keep the list going. And then in terms of international organizations as well, the Norwegian Seafood Council is one such client that we work with. And it's very fascinating because Norway is several miles away. And, you know, for me, that came as, you know, almost like a highlight in our career, in our journey, because this is exactly what we're seeking to do. I've had clients reach out from places in Spain and say, okay, we're doing this training session in Jamaica. We need support to help us to coordinate, to plan. And it can be anything as small as content for that. Someone may say, we need you to have the programs laid out. We need to just ensure logistics are organized. Or other people saying, we want to do an entire festival and we want you to plan it because we can't be there all the time. We're in Jamaica 2 times a year. And as such, we want to have a reliable entity that will get all of the groundwork done for us. So that is just a little snippet, and not to underplay local entities, because we do, as I say, try to work as well with local companies, especially those who are keen on using communications for good. So with many local companies, it's more about corporate social responsibility initiatives. And we do the general PR stuff. We can get you in front of the eyes that you want to get in front of on social media, etc. But we do excel at corporate social responsibility initiatives because, again, it's a marrying of how can we use marketing and communications for positive impact.
Shanoy, you run off all these things as if, you know, very glibly, you know, we just do these things. But my viewers looking on is saying, give her age. I mean, she couldn't possibly be achieving all of this. You're too young to possibly have gone through that full list. How old is this company? Is your company?
So we are entering our 6th year.
6th year.
In January. So it has been a little period, but I would like to say that cumulatively, it's my experiences as well, the experiences of my team. A very solid advice I had early in my career is to hire people older than me and people younger than me, because that melting pot creates a very balanced sort of environment.
Interestingly, a part of that work environment as the boss, or should I say the leader of a team, bringing together youth versus experience, how difficult is that for you?
This is where my culture training comes in very handy. I will tell you that it has its testy days. And I think people think of culture just as Jamaican versus American versus European, British, whatever. But culture is also generational. The way that my mother thinks and views things is very different from how I view things. And of course, I'm working a lot with Gen Zers and, you know, and you have the millennial balance and all of that stuff. And so my culture training has been important in that respect, because I've learned to always start off from a point of never saying you should know better. I've caught myself sometimes, like someone will turn up at an interview inappropriately dressed and you're tempted to think, but you should know better. And then you kind of have to go back to your frame to say, maybe this person has never been to an interview in their life. And so that has been very crucial in terms of not assuming anything. Standard operating processes are super, super important for me as a business owner now. I try to document everything. I'm not going to take it for granted if I tell you to set up a meeting that you know that you set the meeting. You also, if you don't see that Neilson has confirmed, you have to call Neilson to find out if he's coming to the meeting. You don't wait until we turn up on the meeting day. Neilson never saw the meeting invite, and so he did not come to the meeting. And these are things, I think, the background I come from and my age range, I would have thought, that's something you must know.
You ought to.
But now, I do not take it for granted. I document these steps, and so anyone who comes in an admin role knows that these are the expectations. Anyone that comes in a PR role knows these are the expectations. Anyone in a coordinator role. That has been super important for me. Another thing I'd say is the agency of voice. I try to say to my team, I say, you're all experts in your own right. I say, you just came out of university. You may not have work experience. I say, what you have is knowledge I don't have. I would have finished CARIMAC years ago because I did media and communication. I would have done my master's years ago. There are so many things that have happened since then that you who are fresh out of university is more equipped to give guidance on. And so I think in that way, when you encourage people to feel like your ideas are valid as well, what you have to bring to the table is important, it certainly helps to bridge some of those gaps.
So we've been chatting with Shanoy Coombs. She's head cook and bottle washer at Integrated Marketing Communications, a development marketing specialist. We could not have done that in 5 minutes, not even 10 or 15. There's so much more to talk about, so much more for you to learn. But that's why we'll have a second conversation with her. But as we always say here on Let's Talk Stocks, we give you information to make better financial decisions. Come back with us tomorrow morning at 9, another insightful program lined up for you.